You know what I was thinking about the other day is that how the last time I wanted to attempt suicide, I was so quick to call my mom and tell her goodbye, not realizing that. Rise and shine. Quit wasting your time thinking about the past. You just woke up. It's a new day.
You can't change your past. They already happened.
Hey, but what you can do is use your past mistakes as a lesson learned. Write a better future. She now would take on my pain that I would no longer have to feel anymore. Now my mom would have to feel her pain and my pain. To think, will she be strong enough to endure my pain and her pain? And no, probably not. No mother should have to worry about that. No family member, no loved one should have to worry about their friend, their family member committing suicide. Or in my case, attempting suicide. The pain doesn't just stop. It just gets transferred. Suicide isn't the answer.
Hey everybody, welcome into Live with Greg tonight. I'm so thrilled to be talking to this amazing young man here. He has an Instagram and a TikTok page that is like none other. I am enough Michael. If you're not following him, you need to be following him today because he's always posting so many inspiring posts. And his name is Michael Abatantiono, and I'm so thrilled to be talking with him tonight. So Michael, first off, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate that and appreciate the introduction. That was really amazing.
So thrilled to be talking with you tonight. First off, you live in South Carolina. So first, what has it been like? COVID-19, our lives just really ripped upside down. What has this time taught you about yourself?
I would say, well, for me, I worked in the OR. I worked in surgery and during COVID-19. So for the most part, I had to go to work. But when you're talking about when I had that time in furlough and with mental health going on. So those who don't know about me, I do speak about mental health, and mental health has become a broad spectrum when we're talking about COVID-19. A lot of people are staying inside their house. They're talking to themselves. They're in their heads a lot. Now domestic violence, now suicide, now anything and everything of mental health is of importance now. And I would say that has been a big trigger. When I went to making one video talking about mental health, now I have over hundreds of messages, people talking to me, opening up about, their suicide tendencies, their suicide stories, or about the domestic violence stories. And I'm like, man, I wish I can help you guys. I'm only one person, but this showed you how big mental health is in the world that we live in.
Looking at your social media pages on Instagram, you have 243,000 followers as of this moment and 1.7 million followers on TikTok. A big part of what you do, as you said, is mental health awareness. For people watching, why is this something that you talk about often? Because I know this is
I talk about mental
for you.
health. I talk about mental health because of the fact that when I was a kid, I went through a lot of tragedies within mental health. I started cutting myself at 13 years old. I started becoming a pill addict at 14 years old. I saw domestic violence at 10 years old. And all those things correlated to me becoming the young adult that I am. And I took in every single aspect of seeing domestic violence, cutting myself, and doing pills to attempting suicide at 18 years old, becoming a domestic abuser around 20 years old. And, those things have a big part of me because I tried to speak up about mental health when I was a kid and nobody wanted to listen to me. When I was in high school, I tried again to speak up about it to my close family members and no one wanted to listen to me. So now that I know I have a platform that people will hear and see me, this is the perfect opportunity to talk about mental health.
When you talk about your own personal journey and your story, when you look back on that person that you were at 13, 18 years old, how have you been able to get yourself to where you are today and to get the help you need whenever that time comes?
Every day is a battle. I would say every day is a battle. People that work with mental health, and even if you have mental health and you work with mental health, you know that mental health is a journey. Mental health is a battle. There's never one day that just says, okay, I'm fine. I don't need to help myself anymore, because every single day you're helping yourself. I would say when, as that kid at 10 years old, when I saw domestic violence, that has taught me to realize that if you see something, say something. If you see something in the sense that it doesn't look right in your eyes, then say something. Try to talk about it. I was a kid thinking that, okay, this is okay. I wanted to fight back, seeing my mom fight my stepdad and watching my mom, fight against domestic violence in our household. And I became this strong kid at 10 years old doing push-ups and sit-ups. I'm just 10 years old. I think the only way I can help out is gain muscle at 10 years old so I could fight my stepdad from fighting my mom. I no longer want to hear her yell. I need to help her. I took that anger, that violence, and I put that into sports. I put that into physical activities, including myself, not understanding that the only time that I can actually use that anger or violence was in football. And a lot of kids, a lot of kids now, even I started understanding that football was the only thing I had in my life when I was 13 and 14 years old. That's the only reason why I was somewhat sane, because I got to legally hurt people without getting in trouble. And the only reason why I got to do that because I wanted to take my anger out, that behind closed doors, when I got to go to practice, I got to talk about my anger and hitting.
When you talk about your mom going through domestic violence, for other people out there who are going through domestic violence right now, what would you say to them on how it affects children in so many different situations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat yourself? It kind of glitched.
No, you're fine. So when you think about domestic violence and so many people dealing with this across the country, what would you say to those families that their parents who are victims or of some domestic violence to get
One,
themselves out, but also to help their children?
one thing I will say is that your children see everything. You know, if you want to sit there and say, I'm staying here for my kids until my kids get older, understand that your children see everything. I was 10 years old when I saw my mom, go through domestic violence. I was 10 years old when I saw my mom fight back a guy that's, 6'2", 200 and something pounds, slamming my mom against a car. And I'm trying to get out that car and trying to scream. I'm kicking, I'm trying to get out of the car and no one's letting me out. And I have to watch my mom physically cry her eyes out because she's being slammed against a car. And I can only do, the only thing I can do is watch. So when you think your kids don't see anything, your kids don't see and hear, your kids see the damage being done. They know what domestic violence looks like. Even if they don't know, it's going to continue with them when they're older. I would say to parents, don't stay in a relationship with a domestic violence relationship if you're saying, I'm only here for my kids, because your kids would rather you be in a separate home than a broken home. I lived in a broken home for so long that I used to understand that, okay, this is what happens in my home. I see everyone outside and I see the loving houses that people get to live in, and behind closed doors, when I shut my door, that, it's about to be kicking, it's about to be screaming, it's about to be fighting, it's about to be yelling. That's not okay. That's not what kids should grow up with. So I understand a lot of people say they can't get out of that situation because they financially depend on their partner. But I want to tell you this to anyone listening. If you're saying you have to stay in that relationship because you depend on that partner and your partner is the one abusing you while your kids are watching, your kids are going to watch that and either think that's okay, or your kids are going to watch that and say they're helpless, they're hopeless because they can't help you out.
A lot of times, Michael, a lot of people, they don't like to talk openly about things that have happened in their past, things that happen, in their own homes. They want to keep it a secret and not tell anybody. But you are so vocal about sharing your story. In your opinion, why is it so important for people to share their own testimony to help other people?
One of the things I was just talking about this to a friend of mine, and they said, with you sharing your testimony, don't you think this can discredit you? And I'm like, yeah, it could be. It could be a discredit. It could discredit me when I talk about me being a domestic abuser. But if I can talk about me being a domestic abuser, how I know what I have done and I know what those signs look like. If I can talk about that and take the shame on me so that people can hear me and say, hey, you need to get out of this. It's not going to change unless that person change, or unless you're going to die if you stay in a relationship like this. If I can talk about that and allow people to put that shame on me, then I'm going to do so. As a domestic abuser, when I was once a domestic abuser, I talk about my past now. I talk about my testimony. I talk about how I took on everything my stepdad did to my mom. And I used to say, okay, well, I'm not anything like him. I don't want to be like him. But slowly but surely, I became just like him. Everything he did, I started doing. And I didn't realize that. And it started hitting me that, dang, man, Michael, you're becoming just like this guy. You're doing everything to this woman that you didn't want nobody to do to your mom. And so if I can talk out about those testimonies, that trials of being that terrible human being, that terrible husband, and now, it put me to a state of I lost somebody good in my life, by divorce, not by death, but by divorce, that I can talk about, hey, don't allow yourself to put yourself in a situation that you think it's okay for a man to put his hands on you, or you think it's okay for a woman to put their hands on you. And if you have an opportunity, please leave. And if you need help, then let's find the resources to get you out of that. But I want to share my story so that people can hear me and say, hey, if you are a man, for the most part, I want men to listen up, because there's a lot of resources for women, but there's not many resources for men, and especially men who are domestic abusers. If I'm listening, if I'm talking to somebody, I want that man, that domestic abuser, to listen to me and say, hey, you're not going to change unless you decide to change on your own. Just because she's saying, yes, I'll give you another chance, doesn't mean you're going to change. Stop lying to them. Stop lying to your kids. Go get help, or else somebody's going to die, or you will be behind jail. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to stop the people that are abusers from going that far.
When you talk about picking up habits from your stepfather, when did you know in your own relationships that you were turning into him, and how did you get the help you needed to turn your life around?
I knew that I was turning into him when I used to compare myself, those little pieces. When I would say, hey, I didn't do this like my stepdad, but I did do this. I used to validate, okay, my actions weren't as big as his, but I still did it. So I knew what I was doing. However, I would just give myself an excuse as far as not going as far as he did. Nonetheless, as a man, as a human being, and I say man, but I wasn't a man at that time. If you want to be that type of person, if you want to hurt a person, man or woman, you're not a man, you're a boy. You're a boy learning to understand that you're hurting people in your life and you don't need to do that. What was your other question after that? Sorry.
And you talk about suicide, and you talk about this you know what? I want to show this quick video that you posted not too long ago, and then we'll talk. Take a look.
You know what I was thinking about the other day is that how the last time I wanted to attempt suicide, I was so quick to call my mom and tell her goodbye, not realizing that the person who would hurt the most would be my mom. She now would take on my pain that I would no longer have to feel anymore. Now my mom would have to feel her pain and my pain. To think, will she be strong enough to endure my pain and her pain? And no, probably not. No mother should have to worry about that. No family member, no loved one should have to worry about their friend, their family member committing suicide. Or in my case, attempting suicide. The pain doesn't just stop. It just gets transferred. Suicide isn't the answer.
So, Michael, you talk so openly in that video about your own experience. When you talk about your experiences, how has your personal help or therapy help you to get to the point where you can just go through another day and avoiding the thoughts of suicide?
I was just like everybody else when it comes to mental health, that you don't really want to talk to somebody because you don't want somebody to say that you have a problem there. The stigma of mental health is that if you speak about mental health, if you say anything about you have a problem, if you talk about the fact that you wanted to openly commit suicide, people are going to look at you strange, and they're probably going to shun you out of their lives and say, there's something wrong with you. You have an issue. But technically, there is something wrong going on. There is something going on in your head that needs to change. There is something wrong in your head that needs to get help. For me, I had a chemical imbalance in my head that, hey, it was only a matter of time until I was going to hurt somebody or hurt myself. And I put myself in both of those places. I put myself where, one, I had a gun to my head at one point. The first time I attempted suicide, I was 18 years old. I took a bottle of pills, and I passed out in the bathroom in a tub, and I passed out crying my eyes out because I just tried to attempt suicide. And I'm over here trying to actually regurgitate all the pills back out, but I can't at that time. They're already down, so I'm already throwing up bowel movements by then, and my mom catches me in my bathroom and rushes me to the hospital. I'm passed out for a couple of hours. The second time I tried to commit suicide, I had a gun to my head. And that gun to my head signified a lot, that I was willing to take my life because of somebody treating me illy. And I said, I'm putting blame on somebody else when really that blame needed to be put on me. That the only way out that I saw was not speaking to somebody, but trying to kill myself. The third time I tried to commit suicide, I was at the top of the bridge in Charleston, South Carolina. And I called my mom, and I called my sister, and I called a few friends. But the thing that hit me the most is when I called my sister, telling her, I'm going to jump off the bridge. I'm on my way. I'm walking to the bridge to go jump. And I can hear my sister crying and screaming, and my mom's getting in the car rushing to stop me. And that's when I realized that after those incidents, that I can no longer do this on my own. I can't speak to myself. I can't speak to social media and try to say I'm okay, because I'm not okay. And one of my biggest things I say is it's okay not to be okay, but it's time that you talk about it, which is why I started. Go for it.
When you talk about your mom and your sister and how your sister was on that phone call with you, how have they helped support you in you getting the help you need to get yourself back to a happier, healthier Michael?
I don't think they ever not supported me. I think it was all about the confidence I had in myself. They knew that there was something going on in my head. They always knew that, I needed to get help, but it was one of those, instead of making me feel bad about getting help, they made me feel like, okay, this is great. Congratulations. Just like you hit a home run, just like you score a touchdown, congrats for going to go get help. That's amazing. You deserve that help. So they made me feel like, I have an accomplishment here. And I think that's one of the biggest things we need to open up and do more often as family members. You have a family member that goes and get help, just like you score their home run, their first touchdown, score their, celebrate their first time going to get help, or their first time, that they're opening up to you. This is a big moment in their life. They're opening up. They're going to get help. And that was a big moment for me, that my family finally turned to me and they started talking about mental health with me. And they started opening up and saying, you know what, I'm proud of you. What you're doing, it takes guts to get on social media. It takes guts to go to a therapist and tell a therapist, I need help. Can you please help me?
When you think about your life now and the encouragement you're giving to so many people, so many people turn to your page every day for a little bit of inspiration, a laugh, a TikTok dance, or whatever. What does it mean for you to be able to inspire, encourage, and motivate people who have been in the dark places that you've been in?
Man, that's a deep question. I guess I would say here, you be yourself. For me, that was the biggest thing that I never realized, is that I can be myself and live who I want to live. I think that was the part of my anxiety, which anxiety turned into depression, that I always tried to live for everyone else. And you never live for yourself. The people that always want to commit, those that are in the mindset of wanting to commit suicide, they're living for somebody else. In their heads, that they want to please everybody else. And so they get in their heads that, okay, maybe I should commit suicide because I'm not doing what they wanted me to do. They're not proud of me. But once you realize that you start living for yourself, you start doing what makes you happy, the world is yours. So I get on social media and I talk to people, and I'm talking about my experiences, how I feel. And it's not about how anyone else's feels. I can just only hope that you can relate to my messages. But for the most part, my social media is my outlet to speak about how I feel and what's going on.
When I look at so many pictures I pull from your page, so many happier moments, when you see the happier Michael playing at the beach and doing all these cool stuff, what comes to mind knowing that I'm sure it took a lot to get you to this place where you're in a good, positive light?
That's a good question. I actually thought about that the other day, and I looked at some of my videos. I'm like, man, these videos that you're looking at, Michael, you knew that you were hurting. I knew that most of these videos that I posted before I finally got the chance to get help, I was hurting for the longest. There's this one TikTok trend that says, post about a time where you were depressed and nobody knew about it. That was basically all of my social media until 2021, until I started actually getting help. And it hurts me to look at that, because I'm putting on a fake smile, a laugh. I'm laughing for others, so I can cover up that hurt. But now I look at myself and I say, man, I'm really proud of myself. Like, I'm getting the help I need. I'm doing what I need. I'm really proud to say that I'm happy. I'm happy, and I'm happy more than ever at this point. So,
as we wrap up tonight, strong, brave, free. Tell us about it.
All right, so strong, brave, and free. Strong, brave, and free is my 3 words of affirmation that got me through my mental health breakdown. So I started Strong, Brave, and Free apparel just so I can put words of affirmation on people's shirt. When people wear words of affirmation, it's for you to say, hey, this is my words of affirmation. This is my declaration. But for the most part, you never know who's looking at you. And so strong, brave, and free is 3 words of affirmation that I use. I'm strong enough to break barriers. I'm brave enough to overcome adversity, and I'm free from my past. And those 3 words of affirmation is what got me through my life. And now I actually talk about a lot more words of affirmation. Hurt people hurt people. It's okay not to be okay. I am enough. Break the cycle. All these things are words of affirmation that you can say, when I put this shirt on, I feel amazing. This is my words of affirmation, my words of declaration. But when somebody sees this, they can stop and say, you know what? It's okay not to be okay. I'm ready to talk about it. Thank you. Thank you for walking by me. I needed to see your shirt.
When people see these shirts, they want a shirt, want to order a shirt, where can we get them?
So you can go on strongbraveandfree.co. You can look on my Instagram and my TikTok. I am enough Michael. But for the most part, you can go on www.strongbraveandfree.co.
Final question for people watching tonight. They may be going through a difficult time, and to hear your testimony and to hear everything you've gone through, and even though you said, you know what, it's okay not to be okay, what would you say to those people that hear your testimony and think, I'm inspired, I'm not alone? And what advice would you give them going forward as your
Just
final
like you
thought?
said, it's okay not to be okay. But first things first, it's okay not to be okay, but it's time to talk about it. Mental health needs to be spoken about. You have the opportunity to break the stigma in your family within your generation. So that's my quote to everyone. It's okay not to be okay, but please talk about it. You be that one person that can talk about it within your friend group, within your family.
Michael, I appreciate it. Follow him on Instagram and TikTok. I am enough Michael. Follow him today. Again, Michael, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Good night, my friend.
You as well.